So good afternoon, everybody, to my privileged guests on the panel and also all attending and listening to this conversation. My name is Felicia Lauw and I'm from Singapore. And how I describe myself is I serve as a thinking partner and reflector with my executive clients and their team. So today I have the great privilege and honor to participate in this inaugural TKM conference, to host my lovely panels of experts from very diverse backgrounds. You will hear about them in a while. I'll take time to introduce them to you. And they have diverse background and interests on the topic of tacit knowledge management. And our topic today is really in China, what would be needed for MNCs in the next few years to get us started? After this 2 days of conference, we learned a little bit about it. But the movement now is to bring it forward. So I have these lovely people talking to me. So first of all, let me introduce you to my expert panel of guests who have kindly agreed to come and contribute to this important topic. Mrs. Catherine Tong, she is the HR director of ST Microelectronics, which is, ST Microelectronics is a company I know quite well, and they are a global semiconductor company spanning across many, many countries and having a lot of employees across the globe. So thank you for coming here, Catherine. Next, we have Mr. Jack Wang. I think you're probably more familiar than him than me. You probably have seen him yesterday. Well, Jack, like Catherine, they're both from China, and he's the Deputy Secretary of the GO-TKM Federation or Association, really. And he's Executive Vice President of Medela, Greater China, a global healthcare company. So thank you, Jack, for being with us.
Thank
you. I'm going down under, which is from Australia. We have Mr. Richard Pyis, who is, the way I describe him is he's a multidisciplinary specialist in tacit exchanges for resilient living. And he's a former knowledge management specialist for the Victorian government and a former honorary fellow, eScholarship Research Centre at the University of Melbourne. So welcome, Richard. And last but not least, Mr. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Ludo? Or Ludo?
Ludo is very good, yes. Yeah. Pyis is not correct, but they have to call it peace on earth, such a beautiful name. Yeah.
Okay, so I stand corrected. So Mr. Ludo Pyis from Belgium, the founder and president of Europa Group, partner and co-founder of Lantana Capital, and the former vice president at Hewlett-Packard, or people around in Asia call it HP for short. I think it's a very household name. And for those of you who have missed Ludo's and Richard's session, please go back and listen to the recording. I'm sure they gave a very fantastic session. So without further ado, as you listen to my introduction, I would think you would agree with me that we're going to be here for a really good conversation. And let's get started. So I'm going to invite probably the view from within China first. I'll invite Catherine and Jack to tell us a little bit about, what do you think MNCs here need for tacit knowledge management? What do MNCs here need in the next few years? Over to Catherine.
Okay. I will go first, maybe share some of my opinion. To be very frank, we are under a lot of pressure nowadays to transfer or retain our knowledge, no matter it's implicit or tacit knowledge. At the very beginning, we are not able to really differentiate these two because our focus is still on the knowledge management and knowledge transfer or even training and development. And with days goes on, with time goes by, we realize the traditional training actually is not fit for our needs, especially in China. Besides all these days, those speakers shared the global situation, like the retail, for the baby boomers, the great resignation. In China, we for the workforce, we even have a very high turnover. The market, there are so many opportunities. So it's a great pressure for the company to retain the knowledge. But unfortunately, we are not yet know the tacit knowledge yet. Even no idea how to retain that. So through this 2-day seminar, give me a more clearer in terms of from the strategy-wise, vision-wise, from the practical method-wise, give me a lot of information. So I think most probably the foremost important thing is really to propaganda what exactly tacit knowledge is and how it is important, especially how much it can impact the company's financial data. I remember there are 2 or 3 experts to show the method, even viewing the balance sheet. From that, we can immediately raise the attention from our top management to be more focused and give more support on this area. So this is something I think we can start with. So I just stop here and pass to Jack.
Thank you, Catherine. Jack.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Felicia. For me, as a MNC, what we should do, in China for the TKM, I would like to say, before I talk about what we should do for TKM, I think we should know what can we do, for the business, for the competition as an MNC in China today. Medela, we are a private company for 6 years history, and the headquarters based in Switzerland. This is a typical, European company. And actually, we faced a lot of the challenge today in China because we're running a mom and baby business. We produce and selling the breast pump, nursing bra, pregnant moms, skincare product. It's all about new mom, new babies. So we faced 3 challenges. Number 1, the newborn baby declined year by year in China from 17,000 newborn baby in 2017. Now the numbers declined to only 10,000, in 2021. Probably every year we have 1 million newborn baby less in this market. So this is the number 1 challenge. Number 2 is COVID-19. Everybody faced a lot of the pressure and the frustration here because of the COVID, the dynamic zero policy here. We do see a lot of the consumers, they just disappear in the offline. Nobody visits stores, nobody go to the retail store. So we have to move the business to the online. And the third one, the challenge is local competition. A lot of the local players, they did really great job, I have to say. And they run business very creative, and they do everything fast. And they produce product with extremely lower costs. So we face a lot of the talent war here. And it's very high percentage. Those talent moved from a multinational company to the private company, local company recently. So based on these 3 challenges, what we should do in China as an MNC, before we talk about tacit knowledge management, I would say we have a 4D strategy here. The number 1 is a design for China. We develop a product for China market only, not only just selling those popular product portfolio from global. Number 2, we decide in China. During the past 3 years, I visit Switzerland in November 2019, and our CEO board members came to China in October 2019. Then during the past 3 years, nobody can just take any overseas travel. We can only contact from the conference call. So deciding in China is critical. Make sure we have a solid local team manage all of the business. The third one is deliver at China speed. I always say, to my manager in the office, in the headquarters, Switzerland, I said, hey, look, the clock in our office is running quickly than the clock in your office. We have so many things happen just within 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. We got to do agilely, do anything very fast. The third one is digitalize China business. This is the trend. China business, it becomes whole country becomes digital economic. And for any company, if they want to survive, they got to become a digitalized business. Then they can face the challenge from those traffic moved to online from offline. So based on this 4D, I have 4 key words. This is the something required for TKM. We have to multifunctional, we have to localization, we have to be agility, we have to be digital. All of this need our transfer those knowledge from headquarters to the local market, from those senior leaders to our key manager and in front employee, from those people already quit the company to the new employee just onboarding in the office. So what we do is when I get the training from the EMCC, we started our mentoring program in the office. All of our core leaders, around 10 people, and several senior backbones, around 20 people as a mentor. We start a mentoring program. We're mentoring and coach around another 40 people. So this is 60 people as our core members. Take the responsibility to transfer those tacit knowledge to the explicit knowledge and make sure we have a strong knowledge skill to deal with this tough situation and make sure we are multifunctional from R&D, production to the sales, marketing, logistics, and we are localization enough. We can make decision here and timely report to the global. And we do everything fast. We think and act decisively, make right decision with very short lead time. And then we transfer the business from traditional commercial business to the digital business, go for online and develop those digital product, provide a digital service to the customers. So I think this all call for action, we need to embrace this tacit knowledge management to empower, enable our team in China. And this is the way a multinational company can be survival in China at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I love the wonderful overall context you put for us in terms of the challenges. I think it's not just in China. I mean, I sit in Southeast Asia. The challenges that you talk about are actually quite a global scenario as well, for a lot of countries. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there are different pockets of it. Mm-hmm. But I think if one of the things is I always think that in China, if we can, prototype and make it happen, we can also bring it outwards to the other countries and regions to test it out as well. So I really love, Catherine, what you propose us to do, which is, let's get the attention of the senior managers or the senior leaders first. That this is tacit knowledge is something that we really need to look into, and it is of interest and of efficiency, or it is something that is useful for the business to look at, just not a nice to have. So thank you, for that perspective from within China. But I'm also hearing quite a global view here from both of you. Thank you. So I'm going to switch gear a little bit and ask our two other panel experts. Richard's from Australia and Ludo, from Belgium, and I'm sure you also have many perspectives and views from where you sit, not just from the country, but from all the projects and people you've been speaking with. So may I invite Richard and Ludo, what do you know to speak to us about, what do you notice about the need of TKM in corporations in the area you work in? Not just MNCs, but I think if I look at the agenda of our conversation for these 2 days, we start to talk about sustainability, we start to talk about social impact as well. So may I invite Richard to tell us what you have on it, in your multidisciplinary view of the world.
Well, thank you so much for those descriptions. Very rich descriptions of what you feel is going on in China, and I can feel the sort of pressure that you're under. We in Australia, I think everybody feels pressure, so we should all feel that it's a human condition at the moment. So sadly, we have to live with that pressure. But those that help themselves do often, able to live good and fruitful lives, and it doesn't just run us over. I think the only thing, the sort of thing that I'd say about the Australian situation is that we're a very different type of economy. And I'm going to talk about the Australian economy briefly, and it may not be totally relevant, except that this notion of tacit, I would congratulate you so much on promoting this tacit knowledge into your businesses and so on. I don't think in Australia that we would have an articulate strategy around that. Many knowledge managers like myself clearly are passionate about this, but it is not a political or a public issue. My background in the last 10, 15 years has been in what I call public knowledge management. So in the case of the Australian economy, the role of government is quite important in terms of putting the directions of where we need to head. Of course, we do have our local multinationals, and we're very grateful for those multinationals of all types of cultures, because they do bring the tacit knowledge around big-scale program management and project management in large corporations. And that is a skill that we're very grateful for with our multinationals. And the speaker this afternoon spoke very eloquently about the role of tacit in those program management portfolios. But let me now just digress slightly to the role of government. Historically, Australia had a very strong government intervention. I'm talking about 50 years ago, a very strong government intervention in the role and the development of the nation. And so we had these large statutory corporations that invested in large scale, for example, what's the word I'm after? Apprenticeships that would permeate out. This was in telecommunications, in health, in a range of different industries. And the commitment that government made was this, to educate and equip people with skills that have lasted a very long time in our nation. Sadly, in the last 20-odd years, the structure of those companies have changed, and so the commitment to apprenticeship-type training has waned. But just recently, for example, We've had a return of state ownership of the electricity generation industry in Victoria, where they've re-established a government-owned enterprise. And I'm not arguing whether it's good or bad in terms of public ownership, but I'm just pointing out that part of the public ownership commitment to that has been a commitment to 5,000 new apprenticeships in the solar industries. Now, this cannot be underestimated in terms of its importance. So I just raised those types of slightly different perspectives from, I could go on, but I think I should stop there, because otherwise I'm taking too much time. And I'm sure Ludo will have very different perspectives from his much more MNC type of view in Europe. So will listen with interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Ludo, you're on mic.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, yes. So I have a few things. First of all, I think we are talking about multinationals, but also in my speech that I did yesterday, I tried to look at the total picture of startups, SMEs, multinationals. They all are not so different in the way that we have to deal with tacit or explicit knowledge. So in that sense, that's my first remark, and I will come back in a second how we deal with that. And the second one is, when we talk about tacit knowledge, I always want to do two things more. I also want to talk about explicit knowledge, not only tacit, and the two, tacit and explicit, is intellectual capital. And I always learn something. If you don't talk money, nobody listens to you. So if you have a motivation, you need a motivation for top management to do stuff, and you come with a concept or an idea, yeah, they will listen to it, and then they go tomorrow in the continuing business that they always do. But if you put the money term on that, and you can calculate how much the value of tacit knowledge is versus the explicit one, and you can identify the key knowledge carriers, and I hear a lot people always saying top management has to tell. But I am not so sure that top management are the owners of tacit knowledge. The most important tacit knowledge in organizations is what we call the key knowledge carriers, and that are people who are experts in an area. I gave yesterday also the example of, for example, a sales rep who has an incredible network, right? That network is a big value for the company, yeah? Or a researcher who invents new things, or an ICT developer who invents new approaches. Yeah, those people who are most of the times more than 85% tacit in the things they do. If you would ask them to write that down and to transfer it, then they don't remember, or they don't like it, or they don't do it. However, if I take a company of 500 people, what we always found is that there are 20 people in average who are the key knowledge carriers. And everybody knows it and have seen that. Examples in other, when you see that there are a lot of people who are laid off, right? In recent eras, yeah, a lot of people had to leave. What we did once is to look at the lists they make of people to be laid off. And then they try to do the most expensive ones, the most difficult ones they want to get rid of, and what have you. And then we made a list of the key knowledge carriers that you should not fire, because otherwise you have to re-recruit them. And then you have to pay them 4 times. And here comes the money element again. So in that sense, there is something that we need to do. And that is not only true for multinationals, it's also true for smaller organizations, and even more there. And we may not forget, when I look at China, the biggest business or the biggest evolution China has is the SME world, right? Because there is the innovation, there is the creativity, there are the new initiatives. And of course, later on, we can integrate them and make them part of a multinational or what have you. And sometimes you see that. And I will give a little example. I always say there are 2 dimensions. If you look at a multinational, everybody thinks that they are always very well structured in terms of knowledge. Well, we may not forget we are in the era of the hunt of talent. And you see that in many cases, out of multinationals, the best people are recruited away, right? And let me give an example. I know from Microsoft, they had the top guy in AI development, and it was another company from Ireland who hunted him away. They paid $10 million to him to come and work for him, for them. And he left Microsoft. Now, on that moment, nobody talks about that. But if you then would calculate, which we can, how much money that company is losing, Microsoft in this case, by losing that guy, that knowledge, the guy is not so important, it's the knowledge they have, that's gigantic. And you know also that yesterday I explained that we developed a way of calculating values of intangible assets. And that's intellectual capital, of course. And that is the tacit and the explicit. And if you do that in a monetary term, and we even put it on a balance sheet, I put it in my presentation example yesterday from a balance sheet that looks like that. It's amazing, you know, we have multiplier factors of, for example, the tacit knowledge, explicit knowledge that is residing and not calculated in, how would I say, balance sheets of today, right? Then you would be surprised there are factors 50 to 200%, yeah, in different values. And let me give another small example to think about. Everybody from us knows that every manager that we know always says in meetings or whatever, what have you, the most important assets are my people. And then I say, let's have a look now on balance sheets. But balance sheets, classical balance sheets, are made of manufacturing companies. Basic goods in a warehouse, machine parks, finished goods in a warehouse again. And are there then the most important assets people in that balance sheet as an asset? No, they are there as a cost. Now that's a very strange thing, right? That you say from one side that they are the most important asset, and in the balance sheet you report them as a cost. Now we say that's wrong, right? You have to do that completely different. And I will finish with an example. We work a lot with Caterpillar, the headquarters of Caterpillar in Peoria. And actually, you know that I work worldwide. We have a company of 650 people doing only this, only intellectual capital accounting, measuring, improvement, and whatever. We even make projects where we support SMEs with 100% guarantees with banks, because they don't understand how that works, intellectual capital, so that they get loans, that they get money, otherwise they cannot live, right? So that kind of stuff. But let's go back to Caterpillar. The guy who is responsible there is the Vice President, Intellectual Property and Intellectual Capital. And he reports directly to the President of Caterpillar Worldwide. Now, what he always said, it is amazing, he says. We have 2,000 accountants worldwide working on 1.6% of the assets of Caterpillar, which is the market cap, right? Then he says we have around 3% of our work and value that we have, intellectual capital value, that are patents and trademarks and trade secrets and that kind of stuff. And a lot of people like that because they think it is tangible, but it isn't, right? Because it is something that you need to use afterwards. And it's not even belonging to you anymore, because if somebody steals it, the only thing you can do is sue. You need the money to sue. And most of the SMEs don't have that. And then there is around 83 till 85% in the Caterpillar organization, which is tacit. And where do you find that? You find that in the business processes. But on level 3, that's the handoff level, that's pretty detailed already. And two kinds of people that are work center people, they are working 85% with explicit knowledge. Take an accountant, for example. They cannot be creative. They cannot say, let's invent a new accounting system. Yeah, that doesn't work, of course. They have to follow the rules. 85% explicit knowledge. It's simple. An accountant goes away, you take a new one, and he knows what to do. 15% to solve problems. But our key knowledge carriers I was talking about in multinationals and in other companies, right? They have 85% tacit knowledge. And if you take them away, big shit, eh? Yeah. So in that sense, that are a few messages that we have to deepen if we want to have a look at our economy of the future. That is it, Felicia. For the start, I can talk hours, but that's not.
I get a sense if we give you a day, we would keep hearing a lot of fascinating
Oh yeah, no
things.
problem, no problem.
Yeah, and I love what Richard and Ludo, what you both bring in your sharing, because Richard, from how you shared it, I really look at the bigger forces or the bigger sponsorship of tacit knowledge management, which is from a government level or people who have enough power to move this along and who have enough interest on a population basis or on a bigger scale basis, not just from a business perspective, but from the overall well-being of the country and the economy and the people. So I really see that, and I'm so glad that apprenticeship is coming back in a different way. And Ludo, I just love whatever you've just said is actually tacit knowledge. For me, tacit knowledge is something that we don't usually look at. I've been in business for about over 35 years now. And I know, working with the corporates, is that everybody goes back to the balance sheet. Everybody goes back to EBIT.
Yeah,
and
but what we do, oh, sorry, no, go ahead, sorry.
No, don't worry.
I just want to say, if you want to, the only solution for that is that you also make a balance sheet of intellectual capital, which we did, right? So that you can consolidate with the classical one, and suddenly everybody listens to you because you're talking money. If you go to an investor, for example, in what is an investor actually investing? Most of our investments that we see are also on stock exchanges. That's pure gambling. Yeah, you give money and you hope that everything would be good. But hoping, hoping that's for somebody else. That's another business. But if you cannot manage it, and everybody of analysis in stock exchanges, they are always calculating the past, and they always try to come as close as possible to the present. And what about the future? Nobody cares. Yeah, they don't know to measure how to do it. Well, if you can do that, that's what we try to do. Suddenly you have a financial element that is on the table. And then it talks easy, If you then go to a bank or you go to an investor, then people listen to you, right? And in the secret, what we actually do is we always take the advantage of companies. The financiers, that is nice to have, but they are just a tool, right? The banks are just a tool, but they play now the big roles. They decide, I don't know what they decide, because we know, I told yesterday, that if you have an investor listening to a deep tech company who is looking for money, after 12 minutes, the investor doesn't understand anymore what they talk about. And at the end, they say, let's give them $1 million, and let's see what happens. Maybe they take 80% of their shares, and then you say, and then they create Ponzi schemes and stuff. And you say, my goodness, right? I am in that, you saw that I am also a partner of investment companies, and not only that one, we did 3 of them to infiltrate, to see how those people think. Interesting. But I leave that today.
Thank you, Ludo. No, don't be sorry. I think this is fascinating, and I love the energy behind it. So my curious thing is, I want to turn to Jack and Catherine, really. As you listen to Ludo and Richard, what are some of the thoughts that's coming up for you? What are you thinking?
Right. Actually, I'm very interested in the concept from Ludo, turn this intellectual capital into a balance sheet, right? Like a P&L, like a balance sheet. Actually, I'm curious, how do you make sure people within the organization or people as your customer, your stakeholder, they believe, they trust this balance sheet is a real balance sheet, can, show the true value from this intellectual capital. And if there are some value for this intellectual capital, can we turn this intellectual capital to the cash become some really money investment we can put in the business? So this is my question. If the answer is yes, I'm willing to apply this model in my organization.
Let me explain how it works. Let me explain.
Yes.
How am I sure that the value is right? Actually, it's very simple. Again, infiltration, that's what we did. So we go into the accounting and auditing world and listening to the people, how they work. Now, if an auditor put a stamp on it, then the balance sheet is okay. Everybody believes it. Now, that stamp is based on what? That's the International Accounting Standard Board that decides what they accept and how it works, right? And sometimes in region, like for example, China, they mix it with some politically decided strategies in their economy, and that we call the GAPs, the General Accepted Accounting Principles. Now, if you go back to the EIS, which is always the basis of everything, there is a number 38 and a 36. And let me explain the 38. 38 is called intangible assets. So auditors they know about that, right? And they say that it should be identifiable, controllable, and should have future economical benefit every IC asset that you have. Now, they use it already a long time because it exists since 1977. But what did they do with the cost accounting balance sheet? What they did actually is that they activated costs and they consider that as an asset. Now, how crazy can that be? Imagine that you have a knowledge company and you have, for example, in the past, Java developers. 10 years ago, you activated the cost of all those guys, but today you don't use it anymore, and it is still considered in your balance sheet as an asset. Then, hey, it's a liability. And I say, this is wrong. What we did, we went in 2004 to the International Accounting Standard Board, showed them our way of calculation, and it took us 4 years before they accepted it. And if you would go and have a look at the website of the EIS standards, you will find now under the 38 that our approach is accepted. Now, there you go. That means they put a stamp, and that is the guarantee that everybody has. So, you know, it is a little bit playing with what exists, but rephrasing it into what we call knowledge, right? And that nobody ever did. And I must say, I can say that very easily, but we worked on it 14 years with around a few hundred people, not only to invent all that, but to get it accepted, right? And that's the reason why we also make this kind of systems that we go to banks and we guarantee for the people the loans. Otherwise, they always have to give their house as a collateral. And we say, no, we are collateral 100%. But of course, we will work with that company to make sure that they can pay back. That's another story. But we do the same with equity, right? And then, you know, and then you see the flourishing of companies. We can, I'm going to stop here, but can I can give you 1,000 examples of companies who did it already. And you see in our next step, what we are going to do is that we also are going to set up a stock exchange only for companies who manage their intangible assets. And also governments, by the way. Yeah, we say that governments should do the same. Yeah, they also have a lot of knowledge. Yeah, and how do they value it? They don't. But why couldn't we do the following, Richard? That we put a government on a stock exchange. Can you imagine? Suddenly, we don't need the taxpayers anymore to pay.
Fascinating thought. But I will say this openly. I for one, I'm from Singapore. I often feel like Singapore is run like a company. From young, I look at it like Singapore is an enterprise. So
Exactly.
So I'm gonna still invite Catherine. Catherine, because Jack comes from a business, P&L, EBIT. I'm sure that really got his attention. But from a HR perspective, what does this mean for you, for the HR and the social way of looking at people?
It actually means a lot. As I said at the very beginning, the knowledge transfer and the retention, it's a key challenge for for all industry, especially nowadays for semiconductor industry. All over the world, it's become a strategic industry. Everywhere it's a fight for talent. So actually, in the past few years, in my company, I have initiated a lot of activities in order to better retain or transfer knowledge. Things like, for example, like we promote the learning organization concept. We introduce the coaching and the mentoring, the concept. We during even the method of an after action review, word cafe. We try almost everything. At that time, we also established the technical community for them to connect and exchange frequently, have a technical forum, etc. But at that, until this 2 days before, I didn't know this is for the purpose of tacit knowledge transfer. I thought it's just all this method because traditional training doesn't work effective for some kind of knowledge anymore. So we keep trying all kinds of things workable effectively, more effectively in order to will transfer all this knowledge. Until now, I know that what I have done in my company, actually most are working for the tacit knowledge transfer. Yeah, in this sense, I'm wondering maybe we are lack of a systematic view in order to really combine all this, and moreover still to need to evaluate how efficient that is, right? What would be the ROI, etc. This is always in the enterprise. This is mattered. So at HR level, I would think like in these 2 days, we talk a lot like the system, process, the method, the tools. These are all very important for us. So as to the employees' culture, I gain a lot ideas. But in this sense, I also wondering because I see all these speakers, majority, if I'm not wrong, it's still from the institute or universities. So I'm wondering whether this such important topic is still at a research level or academic environment, but not really widely deployed to enterprise yet. So this, if so, this would be the challenge for us, because from theory to practical the implementation, it still have a long gap. So since this tacit knowledge is so important, and in terms of not only financial result, productivity, everything, we need to move very, very fast from the academic study to commercial implementation, to fastly deploy to the enterprise. So for us, for enterprise like us, I believe we will more than welcome all these the solutions. But echo to Ludo just said, for the top management, although they are not the tacit knowledge carrier, but they are the strategic decision maker. So it's also very, very important to make sure they can understand what is about and how to reflect into the return to the company level, right? So I'm also wondering, for years back, maybe the concept of green economic, or the things like carbon neutrality, the sustainability, it's still quite vague to a lot of the business owners. But nowadays, everyone is widely accept that concept, because you see in the balance sheet, we also build the carbon expenditure, the cost. So I'm wondering at a higher level, we also need to push for this kind of concept to widely accept and use the same standard in the industry level or even national level. So if so, we could easily have a common language, right? So this is maybe something TKM are going to do. Yeah. So last echo to Richard, since we are all under stress, so we need to let's compete in this topic, but we need to collaborate each other more to build the common, faster implement solutions. Yeah, instead of every enterprise to come out their own solution, it's a waste of the resources of this society, right? So this is some of my thoughts. Thank you.
So well said. And I could see Richard raising his hand. So Richard, come on in to the conversation.
I was only being very effusive of what Catherine was saying. Let me come to what Catherine was saying in just a moment, but just go back. The other thing that I, just in response to Ludo, I do have some knowledge of the sustainability accounting that's emerging in global levels. And of course, with, and I've worked closely with carbon sequestration modelers. And of course, in all of these types of systems, there is the keeping the systems honest. And that is an immense transformation of change in the way we actually live our lives, and the financial accounting balance sheets are important, but we've got a long history of them being validated, but to move into the new economy is going to require a huge change in our cultures and in our knowledge cultures as much as anything. Now, to come to Catherine's point about managing the stress, in my short presentation, I was just deeply encouraged. Well, firstly, let me say I was just so deeply encouraged by the idea that people under stress, like what you're describing, have come forward and said we need to take time out to talk about and think about tacit knowledge management. The question is, how do we do it at scale? Because the challenges are so overwhelming. We can't fiddle around and turn it into a 20-year project. We have to do it at scale. And the sort of model that a GO-TKM, I just flung some ideas in about how this might emerge at scale, and that is that we focus on knowledge at personal knowledge management level and resources, and equipping those that want to address stuff at an individual level, at teams level, and at organisational levels and inter-organisational levels. If we had resources and capabilities available on a global basis, and that we're collaborating across cultures with this sort of stuff, this is something that would be of use to the normal middle managers or the leaders. They would need to, if the movement became wide enough, they would need to find out about this notion. So I think the idea that it is possible that we could do something at scale by pulling in the resources of all the various parties that have contributed into some form of global think tank. I hope I was hoping to encourage imagination of what we could do across countries and within countries. So thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you, everyone.
Felicia,
Ludo.
Can I say something here? Can I go to what you just said, Richard, about the sustainability accounting and stuff like that? So there are many attempts in the past, which we know all, yeah. But the only way what was always not good is the 3 criteria from auditors. identifiability, controllability, future economical benefit. And if you don't comply with them, then all the other things are just thinking exercises. Yeah, people make sustainability reports. Everybody makes it, and it's in many cases more a fashion than a use. Because what we try to do is to go and check what they then do with that results. And then we are always surprised that it ends up on the shelf, and everybody's still going to the classical work of a manager is, let's have more money, let's have more profit, reduce costs, develop new product, and that's it. And for the rest, they do nothing, right? So in that sense, we thought a lot about that when we came up with our accounting system, that we say it should be exactly the same as classical accounting, because we want to benefit from what you just mentioned, the years and years of experience and of acceptance. And we do exactly the same look and feel, same the basic strategies of how to build it, the ledgers and what have you. So in that sense, it is a huge thing, but I'm still 100% convinced if you talk money, suddenly people listen to you. Yeah, and you can scale it up very easily, right? Because if you say, if an investor you suddenly saw, because that's also another one, let me put it on the table, what we do, ESG, everybody is talking about ESG. But what we did is we put a V behind it. And we say you have the environment, the social, the governance, and what about the value? So we made econometrics that measures also the value of those three other elements that you can put on a balance sheet. And suddenly it becomes something more important. And that is always have been our vision. Now, important is, can I come back to two things about tacit? We need a definition. What is tacit knowledge? Yeah, it are lessons learned, cases, stories, little methodologies, little tricks. That's what it is, right? And how can you turn it from tacit into explicit? You have to capture it. Not easy. Eh? Imagine a researcher, and you have to capture what they think. Yeah, you need very special techniques. We develop them to do that, because he thinks today something else than tomorrow as of yesterday, right? And how is that then? And what is then the knowledge that you're going to use and what not, right? Make the separation. So capturing, storing it, easier, you store it somewhere, and it has to be reused by people. If it is not reused, you don't comply with the EIS 38 standards. It's not identifiable, not controllable, and should not create future economical benefit. And all those things have to fit into each other. And if that's the case, we did it already so many times that we have confronted with auditors and stuff. They always lose. They always have to accept that our way of doing is correct. And suddenly you have a value of a company. If you want to sell it then, or you talk to investors, or you're on the stock exchange or whatsoever, you see the price of the shares going up just by reporting it. Anyway, sorry for that.
No, I could just see where everybody's different energy is on tacit. Although we have a common, a word amongst us, which is tacit. But can you see the diversity and the energy that we put behind that word and where we would contribute? And I love what Catherine was alluding to earlier, where it is, if only the tacit knowledge is a way that all of us can collaborate, not in competition, but really collaborate and go at scale at it. Doing it for, as a human, I have been in the human development business for 18 years now. It is music to my ears, because apart from, looking at the balance sheet, I think it is really time where we look at an individual and value the individual versus looking at the individual as cost. That's what Ludo was talking about. And, the respect and the inclusion and everything that I would love to talk about in other circumstances. Tacit knowledge in terms of the value people bring would then make a difference. Yeah. It's an asset. The voices one brings to the table is not just about rank and file, not about hierarchy. It's about, hey, how can I contribute to this conversation?
Yeah. But Felicia, it is an asset. Yeah, it is an asset. It's not a cost. It is an asset, right? Yeah. For example, to show that how you can deal with that, what we sometimes do is that we go in companies, multinationals, and you have all the managers with their budgets, right? And those who stayed within their budgets, applause, good. And those who will exceed their budget, we are going to kill them, right? And then we said that let's calculate the value that they created with that budget. And suddenly you have a complete other picture. It could be perfectly possible that somebody who spent all the money and stayed within his budget but didn't create value, he's the worst, yeah? And the other ones who exceeded their budget, they are the kings because they added value to the company. You know, that kind of exercises.
Yeah. So, nice thank you. So what I'm getting from this fabulous and very rich discussion is that it was a question that we wanted to discuss, but I think through that, organic conversation, I managed to pick up a few, which is what are some of the critical success factors of bringing tacit knowledge into our society and into MNCs in China. One of the first thing I heard is collaboration. And before that, money talks. So let's put the money on the table first. That's number one. Number two is collaboration and going at scale. The other thing is, where we are stressed today is because everywhere we look is demanding for change. So it's the evolution of business that we have been in this industrial age for a long, long time now. And I almost want to light a fire under the word tacit knowledge management, which is maybe tacit knowledge management and the identification of explicit knowledge together. Maybe the next evolution that, all of us in this global economy is looking for. And it is also an opportunity for people to come together instead of going their separate ways. So I just want to summarize that very rich conversation there. And I'm also noticing time flies when we're deep in the conversation. I do have a question from the audience that I'm going to just put out to the group here. And if anyone has an opinion, please speak up. The question is from Werner Friedrich. How do you think AI, artificial intelligence, will impact tacit knowledge domain transfer in the company? Any opinion about that? AI is in our face right now.
Well, let me just make a brief comment about it. I think that we're under pressure, so automation is a necessary part of our future. There's no question about that. But the reason why I've been so strongly about supported so strongly about singling out the notion of tacit within that is that knowledge, it's a complicated conversation, but decontextualized knowledge, moving it out of a context, which often automation and artificial intelligences do. For example, the creation of algorithms, and then people move on, and those algorithms are embedded in systems, and therefore the system begins to become the decision maker, and the augmentation of human interpretive intelligence is lost. I would only make the point that I think we need to keep reminding ourselves that tacit knowledge, all knowledge is at first tacit, and we should continue to beat ourselves up and say, yes, that's right, and we've got to remember it and not let totally the explicit knowledge world take it over. Enough from me.
Thank you, Richard.
I think that it has to do what Richard is just saying. That is an ethical dimension, right? And we will not be able to stop this, the use of machine learning, AI, because there is also a lot of confusion. What do we call AI? There is something that, whatever. Let's not go into that discussion. But what it is, if you can improve the functioning of your processes, then it is a part of explicit knowledge, whatever it creates, right? And that can be controlled, managed, used, because we are still individuals who are going to use this. We are not always, we see sometimes that for example, banks who give loans based on AI algorithms. Then I say, well, that is a little bit far away from reality, right? So, but there we have to fight against it, that the ethical part of all this, the fact that there is contextual situations. A company is not only the explicit or then the heap of tacit knowledge that is somewhere. No, there is also interaction between the people and that kind of stuff. So AI will help us a lot, yeah? But we need to have a definition of what AI is. And then within the definition, it helps, of course, also the explicit knowledge in business processes.
Thank you. Love the different ethical as well as, remember why there is tacit, because we can't make everything explicit at the moment. And there is always this one.
I'm interested to hear what Catherine might say about that, because she's involved with a company that is part of our future in automation.
I'm not expert of AI.
Don't put her on the spot.
But in fact, it's happened. I have a discussion with some friends last week. We are saying that why we are not as smart as some of our ancestors, the older generation. For example, Einstein or these smartest people. So which means we are not inherent their intelligence properly. I believe eventually we will need to compete with the robots, AI. So we as human beings, we need to unite it more closely in order to fight the war. Eventually we can, just my thought, we can win without all this separate and silo work. I still believe the world belongs to human being. It's just to expand my thoughts. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. I'm going to pass the mic to Jack. Jack, you've been listening intensely to all this conversation. What are some of your views and thoughts right now as we come to a close for our panel?
Yeah, I would say this is a great opportunity to listen all of the experts, your opinion about TKM. And I'm always thinking, if our panel topic is how MNC, do the TKM today. So another question is, what can we learn from those local players, local brands? They also do a lot of the TKM today. So I have to say, there is one real example, just after the Double 11, China, we have a very famous online shopping festival on November 11, we call it Double 11. So after Double 11, we create another record high. We can sold probably 1 or 2 months business just in one day. And people will do the business summary, right? We'll have some learning and takeaways. So I really interested in one local players as our partner. They came to our office, give us a summary. They just use the Feishu. This is our online tours initiated by the TikTok. And they use very simple version, just like a Word. And they can put those shots, the screenshot after this Word, and then they share everybody just one day after Double 11. And they are very proud to share this information within the team. So this gives me a real example how we can learn from local brand. Actually, if drive the TKM in my organization, I will take 3 things. One is motivation. How to make sure people, they love sharing, capturing, retaining the knowledge. Number 2 is about ability. Are you able to have the knowledge, skills, tools to do this TKM, right? And the third one is about supportive environment, or if you can call the co-behavior, the company culture, or even office politics, right? So whether your organization will allow you to do TKM, even you are willing to do, you are capable to do. So I want to learn from the local brands. They define the high potential, high performance people based on if they can share those tacit knowledge as small as possible. And they create a lot of the instant communication tools so they can share with the team immediately. And the third one is they just open eyes. They are very patient, very humble to learn. They just break the wall between the function, and also they want to learn from other companies. So I think this is a really good example for me how we do the TKM about motivation, ability, and a supportive environment. So this is my takeaway.
Thank you, Jack, for that lovely summary. And I'm noticing we are on the hour, so I do have to end this panel. But my sincere thanks to all of you, Catherine, Jack, Ludo, and Richard, for just showing up and giving us your expertise and your wisdom in this hours of conversation. I have personally learned a lot. More than learning in the head, I'm actually very encouraged because tacit knowledge management really evolves the way we work, we live, and really help bring the smaller voices in the system up as well, so that we are on a different and leveling playing ground. So thank you all for your time. Felicia, I'm going to pass it back to you. And I apologize, Prof. When Frederick, I couldn't come to you, but we've run out of time at the panel. Frederick, Felicia, I'm going to pass it back to you. Or Sylvia, is it you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Okay, great. Thank you, Felicia, and thank you all our panelists for your wonderful sharing. I just listening in the back, which give me a lot of hints. Of course, due to time limit, we will not share that. We share that again. So thank you everyone for your wonderful roundtable discussion. This we will take away and then learn and use it in our daily practice. Okay, thank you. So very insight for sharing for this. I think Ludo, you did a great job for this also. Great, thank you. And also Jack and Professor Richard and Catherine, and also Professor Wang, you are welcome to join us as well. You raised good questions for that. Thank you. Okay. So in this case, the first global organizational tacit knowledge management forum is coming to the end. And then I should thank you all very much for all your contribution for us, for all our distinguished speakers, panelists, and all my colleagues as well. Because actually, just to let you know, all my colleagues have been working for this for the past 5 months already. So they spend a lot of time in doing this, and then even recently, in the recent months, many of them just they have no weekend at all. They work day and night to get all these things move on. I think I should thank you. Express my deep thanks to them, to my whole team. I think they did great job. Thank you, my team. And also in this case, I would also like to invite also thanks to my partners. So my partners like the Highland Talent Group, as the SDIC Talent Group, of course the Highland government as well. So. And now I would like to invite our Highland Talent Group General Manager, Mike Wang, to speak something. Mike, are you there? Mike.
各位专家
，OK，
各位专家，大家好。我的老师瑟维亚娜，你好。瑟维亚娜是我的老师。你能听到我说话吗？特别感谢还有我 Felicia， 这是我的督导。感谢你们，感谢我们全球的专家来支持我们这个活动。这次由海南省委人才发展局主办，国投人力、海南人才集团、蒙科中国来举办这个活动，非常成功。昨天在开幕式上呢，我们各方都做了祝贺。2天的活动，外界给予了非常高的评价，一致认为这是在中国隐性技能的管理方面是一个顶级的盛会。就像刚才我们的老师们、专家们说的，我们的专家团队以专业的精神赢得了业界的尊重。我们的工作团队这2-3个月全心的投入，保障了整个项目的运作。作为我们在海南的承接方，海南人才集团全力的支持和服务这样一个隆重的重要的论坛的召开，应该说这是一个好的起点。我也衷心的祝愿未来会做得更好，也谢谢大家。希望我们达沃斯再见，明年的海南博鳌再见。谢谢你们，谢谢 ，Thank you very much, Thank you,
Thank you, Mike.
谢谢。
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
So, yeah, actually, I think I should say, I should express my heartfelt thanks to Mike Wang, because without his and himself and his team, his company to support us, and this may not be possible for us today. So thank you again, Mike, for this. And then the second person I would like to invite, yeah, I would like to invite our GO-TKM President, Professor Professor Sylvain, to give us the summary statement for this. Thank you. Hi, Professor Sylvain.
Ni hao, everybody.
Morning, yeah.
Ni hao. So first, I'm completely in line with you, Mike. Again, thank you so much, Xie, for your support. It has been hampang, so fantastic. Thank you so much. I would like to just come with a few keywords for our reflection today. I think for the 2 days, see how enthusiastic you have all been speaking about tacit knowledge management. I don't speak about tacit knowledge. I speak about the tacit knowledge management. Now it's about the next step. We know how to get the knowledge. Nice to know how to measure the tacit knowledge. And I keep from Ludo and from other ones the fact that it's not a cost, it's an asset. Keep that in mind. So when we measure, we can manage. No measurement, no management. We are business players here. Let's bring it to the next step. That is the knowledge revolution. We are now in the 21st century. This is the first keyword that I would keep in mind, knowledge management. The second keyword is the diversity and the adequacy. We come at the right time because look at the pyramid and the demographics, both for Chinese people, but also for the rest of the world. We are in the same boat together. We need to manage the transmission of all what we know. And look, we are around 40, 50, 60 here. Look at our age here. I'm 66. I know I don't look my age, but I'm thinking about continuing working as a mentor and transmitter of that knowledge for the next 10 to 15 years with a lighter rhythm, of course. But being there present, we are here together to bring that knowledge to the next generation. Another thing that I keep in mind is scaling. We have no time to think small. We have to think big and fast. So in GO-TKM, let's synergize all together, because for the moment we have so many people, so much diversity, but across the globe, in China, outside China, but this is disseminated. So let's put that all together. Let's synergize, but let's keep ourselves, let's say 2 to 3 years to reach that scale all together. And the last thing I would like to express is the gratitude. Gratitude for your energy, gratitude for all you bring, gratitude for Mike, but I would like to deeply express my gratitude to Fisher. When he speaks about not taking a single day, this guy hasn't been sleeping for 3 months now. And really, Fisher, I know you had tears in your eyes. I do too, because you are my partners now for several years. And I'm so happy that we can show how Chinese, all the planet can work together across border, across political system, across whatever. We are together because we have the same emotions. You know, at the end of the day, we just want to be happy. We want our children to be happy, and we are preparing next generation. Isn't that what we are preparing all together? So please, let's continue working all together like this, heart in heart. Together, we have the energy, and let's move forward. Thank you, and see you in Davos. Don't forget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
我们感谢斯维亚娜老师，感谢各位专家，感谢我们的工作人员。我们海南人才集团愿意一如既往继续做好中国的隐形技能管理的论坛。我们明年继续欢迎大家来参加我们的活动。谢谢你们，谢谢。
谢谢。
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and also I should also express my thanks to Jack for his wonderful moderator in yesterday. So he really helped me, did a great job, because actually yesterday my voice I got a little bit of the COVID, so then I lost my voice. So that's why I say, Jack, can you help me? Just say, okay, let me do it. So he just accepted my invitation immediately without any hesitation. So thank you, Jack, for this. And then
thank
also,
you.
Yeah, my last but deep thanks should to our interpreters. So thank you, Jasmine and then let me see the Tiger, for both of you, the wonderful translation for these 2 days. Without any one of you, we could not transmit our information, our knowledge to the rest of the world. So far, we realized that the audience from over 50 countries access our webinars or forum for this. So you all did great job. Thank you. Thank you for both Jasmine and Tiger for your wonderful, wonderful translation. Thank you. Okay, so in that case, I would say, so the first global organizational tacit knowledge management forum is come to the end, and then so let's meet next year in Davos, September 3, 4, 5. We will be there on site. Okay,
Absolutely.
We will be there on site. I
And
want
it
to
will be a
see
great
every
year.
one of you in person in
Davos
Davos.
Yes.
Okay, see you
Yes.
there. Have a good
Yes.
year.
See you.
Happy New
明年再
Year.
见，
Merry
Happy New
Christmas
Year.
and Happy New Year. Long
Right.
life,
你好
good health.
Happy
Okay.
New Year。
Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.